Melania Trump, the former First Lady of the United States, a figure who for years has balanced an image of quiet elegance, guarded privacy, and occasional controversy, suddenly became the center of one of the most explosive courtroom battles in recent political memory when she filed a high-profile lawsuit against Representative Jasmine Crockett, a rising Democratic firebrand known for her sharp tongue, unapologetic truth-telling, and fearless confrontation of political opponents. The lawsuit, which at first appeared to be a strategic move designed to protect Melania's reputation and reassert her place as more than just a decorative figure in American politics, quickly spiraled into a legal and media circus that not only dragged her name into weeks of public debate but, in a shocking twist, turned catastrophic in the courtroom when her own star witness, handpicked to validate her claims and bolster her credibility, ended up unraveling her carefully maintained legacy in a devastating 9-second exchange that has since been replayed millions of times across social media, dissected by legal analysts on primetime television, and immortalized as a defining moment in the intersection of celebrity, politics, and justice. To understand the magnitude of this collapse, one has to trace the origins of the dispute itself. Melania, who has long struggled with the duality of being admired for her composure yet criticized for her silence during her husband Donald Trump's tumultuous political career, felt personally targeted when Crockett, during a fiery congressional hearing, made pointed remarks suggesting that Melania had willingly turned a blind eye to ethical breaches, corruption, and misogyny, benefiting from the Trump brand while claiming detachment whenever accountability arose, remarks that were both blunt and piercing, resonating with many critics but angering loyalists, and in response, Melania, advised by her legal team, decided to sue Crockett for defamation, arguing that the Congresswoman's comments were not only baseless but maliciously designed to humiliate her and diminish her reputation. The move shocked Washington, as former First Ladies rarely, if ever, file such aggressive lawsuits against sitting lawmakers, and the case immediately drew headlines as a potentially precedent-setting clash between political speech and personal dignity, with commentators debating whether Melania was finally stepping into the arena as her own independent actor or whether she was being weaponized as part of a broader strategy to silence critics of Trumpism. The courtroom itself became the stage of high drama, with cameras capturing every subtle gesture, every whispered consultation between attorneys, every glance exchanged between Melania, seated in immaculate designer attire, and Jasmine Crockett, who entered with her characteristic confidence, her afro perfectly styled, her expression resolute, embodying the energy of a woman unafraid of establishment power. The trial proceeded with opening arguments that painted vastly different narratives. Melania's lawyers portrayed her as a dignified woman slandered for political theater, unfairly dragged into controversies she never courted, while Crockett's defense framed the lawsuit as a brazen attempt to intimidate a black female congresswoman whose only crime was speaking truth to power, framing the battle as not just about Melania's reputation but about free speech, accountability, and the right of elected officials to call out complicity in governance. And then came the moment that would change everything. Melania's legal team called their star witness, an individual touted as having inside knowledge that would confirm her virtue and integrity, someone meant to silence critics and deliver the decisive blow against Crockett. But instead, what unfolded was an unmitigated disaster. The witness, when cross-examined by Crockett's razor-sharp attorneys, crumbled in just 9 seconds, delivering contradictory statements that not only undermined Melania's claims but also inadvertently exposed inconsistencies in her public narrative, leaving the courtroom in stunned silence before gasps and murmurs rippled through the audience. Reports later described how Crockett leaned forward, eyes locked on the witness, and in a single cutting question forced them to admit that Melania had, in fact, been aware of and present during discussions she had long denied involvement in, a revelation that undercut her entire claim of innocence and detachment, a revelation that in 9 seconds destroyed years of carefully curated image making, and the clip of that moment, Melania's eyes widening, her attorneys fumbling with objections, the judge silencing the chaos with a gavel, spread like wildfire online, with memes, commentary videos, and hashtags flooding Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, making the trial less about legal precedent and more about the implosion of a legacy. Suddenly, the narrative shifted from Melania as a wronged woman defending her dignity to Melania as a figure whose silence and denial had caught up with her, whose attempt to fight back had backfired catastrophically, and whose reputation now carried the indelible stain of courtroom humiliation. Pundits across networks debated the wisdom of bringing the case in the first place. Some argued it was a disastrous miscalculation by her legal team, others speculated it was a pressure play orchestrated by allies who misread the cultural moment, but all agreed on one point: that the 9-second collapse of her witness would forever be remembered as the undoing of Melania Trump's attempt to rewrite her story. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett emerged from the trial stronger than ever, Hailed by supporters as a fearless defender of truth who stood her ground against one of the most powerful political brands in America, her reputation soaring as clips of her cross-examination went viral with captions like, "This is how you dismantle lies," and 9 seconds of pure truth. And the contrast between the two women, Melania, elegant but shaken, exiting the courthouse surrounded by silence, and Crockett, energized and unapologetic, addressing reporters with the clarity of a victor, became symbolic of a broader cultural shift, one in which political accountability no longer bows to celebrity aura. In the days that followed, Melania's team attempted damage control, issuing statements blaming media sensationalism and insisting the trial was about principle, but the damage was irreversible, with late-night comedians mocking the fiasco, editorial writers penning obituaries for the mystique of the enigmatic First Lady, and even some conservative commentators privately admitting that the lawsuit had been a mistake, while Crockett capitalized on the moment to reinforce her platform, delivering speeches about the importance of truth, resilience, and standing up to intimidation, framing the case not as a personal battle but as part of a broader struggle against silencing voices that dare to speak against entrenched power. Thus, in a courtroom intended to vindicate her, Melania Trump instead suffered a collapse of legacy, undone not by hours of argument or pages of evidence, but by 9 seconds of devastating truth, and in that collapse lies the irony of power. That sometimes the image you spend years protecting can be shattered in less time than it takes to draw a breath, leaving behind not dignity restored, but a legacy destroyed.